6 a.m. Millhaven, Wild Bill, Denver. WKRV 1150, the Rebel frequency. And I want to say, if you're just waking up and tuning in, buckle in, because a lot happened while you were asleep. Here's what they don't want you to know. Quick recap for anybody catching up. 2 deaths this weekend. Marcus Webb at Fenwick Park. Gary Prentice in the Riverside District. Different wound patterns. Both bodies since vanished from a secured morgue with no explanation. Overnight, a confrontation out at the old rail yard. Shots fired at what officers described as 2 fast-moving shapes. And just a few hours ago, a father and son injured in their own home out in Cedar Hollow by something that, according to the father himself, was running from something else entirely. Now, here's what's new this morning. I've got a caller, works maintenance for the city, tells me an emergency city council session has been added to today's calendar. Closed door, not on the public agenda. Called sometime after 2 a.m. last night. You don't call an emergency closed session at 2 in the morning over a repaving vote, folks. Something happened last night that pushed City Hall to move. And they moved fast, and they moved quiet. I also want to acknowledge my phone lines have been absolutely flooded since midnight. I can't get to every call, but I hear you, and I am working every lead I've got. This city is scared, and I don't blame you one bit. Wild Bill Denver, back at 7. WKRV 1150, the Rebel frequency. Coffee's on, folks. Long day ahead. $7 a.m. Millhaven, Wild Bill Denver, WKRV 1150, the Rebel frequency. Here's what they don't want you to know. That emergency closed session I told you about last hour, I've got a name attached to who called it. And folks, it's not who I expected. Deputy Mayor Corwin Hale. Not the chief, not the mayor herself, the deputy mayor. Personally, at 2 in the morning, pulling council members out of bed for a session with no public agenda and, according to my source, no official minutes being kept. No minutes, folks. In 30 years, I have never heard of a city session, closed or otherwise, with no record being taken at all. Now, here's a detail that's been sitting with me since I first got into this business. Corwin Hale has been deputy mayor in this city for going on 22 years. 22 years, 3 different mayors, and he's never once run for the top job himself. Never once left for a bigger city. Never once aged out of the picture the way career politicians usually do. I pulled an old photo out of our station archive from a ribbon cutting back when I first started here. Man looks exactly the same. Exactly. I know how that sounds, folks, I do. But I've learned this week to stop dismissing the things that sound impossible. I'm not accusing anybody of anything I can't back up. I'm telling you what I'm seeing. And I'm telling you to watch how careful, how coordinated, how quiet this city's response has been from hour 1. That kind of discipline doesn't happen by accident. Wild Bill Denver, back at 8. WKRV 1150, the Rebel frequency. Millhaven, Wild Bill Denver, WKRV 1150, the Rebel frequency. Here's what they don't want you to know. Millhaven police just put out a statement on last night's Cedar Hollow incident. And folks, I want to read you the exact language because it tells you everything. Quote, officers responded to a residential disturbance involving a domestic animal. Injuries were minor and non-life-threatening. End quote. A domestic animal, folks. A father and his teenage son taken to Millhaven General with claw lacerations from something that came through a second-story window. And the department wants you to picture what? An angry Labrador? I called back down there, pushed on it, and got transferred 3 times before somebody hung up on me. Second time this week. I'm starting to wear a groove into that particular phone line. I also want to bring you something my Cedar Hollow contact passed along this morning. Says 2 men in plain clothes showed up at the hospital before the family had even been fully treated. Didn't identify themselves as police, didn't show badges when asked, spoke privately with the father for almost 20 minutes with the door closed. Nurse on shift said one of them referred to the other as, quote, from the deputy mayor's office, end quote. The deputy mayor's office, folks. Not the police department, not the coroner, the deputy mayor's office, sending men to a hospital room to have a private conversation with a victim before his own family could hear what happened. I don't know what story that family's about to be told to repeat, but I'd bet my whole 30 years in this business it isn't the true one. Wild Bill Denver, back at 9, WKRV 1150, the Rebel Frequency. AM, Millhaven, Wild Bill Denver, WKRV 1150, the Rebel Frequency. Here's what they don't want you to know. I want to bring you something that happened right here at this station about 40 minutes ago, because it's never happened to me before in 30 years on the air. I got a visit. Not a call, a visit. 2 men. Same description my Cedar Hollow contact gave me for the ones at the hospital, showed up at our front desk asking to, quote, have a conversation about responsible broadcasting during a sensitive public safety matter, end quote. I did not go out there myself, folks. My station manager handled it. And I want to be straight with you. She asked me to tone things down for a few days. I understand her position. This station's got a business to run and a license to protect, and I respect that. But I told her the same thing I'm telling you now. I've been doing this 30 years because I don't stop asking questions when somebody in a nice suit asks me politely to stop. They left a card. No name on it, folks. Just a phone number and the words, quote, Office of Municipal Affairs, end quote. I looked that up the second they walked out. There is no Office of Municipal Affairs listed anywhere in this city's public directory. Not on the website, not in the budget, nowhere. An office that doesn't officially exist sent 2 men to my front desk this morning to ask me nicely to be quiet. Folks, I am still on the air. That tells you something too. Wild Bill Denver, back at 10, WKRV 1150, the Rebel Frequency. AM, Millhaven, Wild Bill Denver, WKRV 1150, the Rebel Frequency. Here's what they don't want you to know. Councilwoman Okafor Bly went public about an hour ago, and folks, this is the first time anybody inside City Hall has broken from the script. She stood outside the municipal building, no podium, no prepared statement from what I'm told, and told reporters she was excluded from last night's emergency session despite representing the district where two of these incidents happened. Her exact words, quote, "I was not invited to a meeting about my own constituents' safety, and I want to know why." End quote. I managed to get her on the phone myself about 20 minutes ago. First person from this story to actually talk to me directly instead of through a source. She wouldn't speculate on what was discussed in that session, said she genuinely doesn't know, but she confirmed something for me that I think matters a great deal. She said Deputy Mayor Hale personally instructed the council clerk not to log her calls requesting information over the last 2 days. Personally instructed. Folks, that is not a busy administration falling behind on paperwork. That is a deliberate choice to keep an elected official in the dark. I asked her point blank if she thinks the deputy mayor is hiding something. She paused a long time before she answered, and then she said, quote, "I think somebody in that building already knows more than they're telling any of us, and I intend to find out who." End quote. Folks, I've got a friend on the inside now, whether she knows it or not. Wild Bill Denver, back at 11. WKRV 1150, the Rebel Frequency. AM, Millhaven, Wild Bill Denver, WKRV 1150, the Rebel Frequency. Here's what they don't want you to know. Got something in the last half hour that I want to handle carefully because it involves a badge, and I don't say things like this lightly. A source inside the police department, different from anyone I've quoted so far, reached out and told me there's real tension building between rank-and-file officers and command staff. This source says at least a handful of officers have started quietly comparing notes on their own, off the clock, because they don't trust what they're being told to write in their own incident reports. Specific example, folks. The officers who responded to that rail yard confrontation overnight, the ones who reported seeing two fast-moving shapes and discharged their weapons, my source says those officers were told to file their reports as, quote, "suspected large canine, possible mountain lion," end quote. One of those officers reportedly pushed back, said that's not what he saw, and was told, and I'm quoting this exactly as it was relayed to me, quote, "that's what you saw," end quote. Not a request, an instruction. Folks, when you start telling trained police officers what they saw with their own eyes, that's not managing a panic anymore. That's something else entirely. And I think a growing number of people inside that department are starting to feel it too. Councilwoman Okafor Bly's going public was one crack in this thing. If officers start breaking from the script too, that crack gets a lot bigger, a lot faster. Wild Bill Denver, back at noon. WKRV 1150, the Rebel Frequency.